My name is Drue. I go by Drue Photo on the internet, and I am a portrait product photographer that loves sharing what I do online. What first got me inspired to be a photographer was actually social media. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with Tumblr. I don't know, I was just in a in-between state of hobbies, didn't really know what I was doing. I wanted to go do travel photography. I saw all these people, doing all this cool travel photography, and I was like, I want to do that. Ended up picking up a camera and honestly didn't use it for probably about a year. Ended up picking it up a little bit later, just got into portrait photography. My style, I would say, is a lot more, I like to use a lot of vibrant, saturated colors. As humans, we're just drawn to these bright, fun, colorful colors. But I like to do, a lot of everything, whether it be gritty or whatever it may be, but I tend to kind of lean back towards those rich kind of colors. Some of the more difficult things I come across when I'm taking photos or working with people is you do work with people that just aren't experienced in front of camera, and it does make a night and day difference of people who are professional models versus people who are more amateur. The biggest thing for me is establishing rapport with your subject. Like, that's just number one. Most of the times before we even go out and shoot, I'm trying to just hang out before the shoot, whether it be going to get coffee or whatever it may be, but that's a very important step in my process. That way you're more comfortable while we're going out and shooting, because it's nerve-wracking being in front of a camera and not knowing what you're doing or don't know how you look or anything like that. So number one for me is establishing rapport with my subject. Something that I need to have with my workflow, especially in post-processing, is I need something that is color accurate, because like skin tones are so important to me, especially with kind of my style that I like is those fun colors and everything like that. If you are a photographer and you work in post, you can understand how frustrating it is when you edit a photo, you think it looks incredible, and then you send it over somewhere else and it looks completely different. It's honestly the most frustrating thing. Getting a color accurate monitor was the best thing that I did. Post-production, having a good monitor is extremely important. Color accuracy, being able to actually see your images in full quality is very important. Technology is so advanced nowadays that you're shooting the high resolution images and you need something to be able to see all those pixels that you are capturing. Bigger typically is always better, just because of all the pixels that you're able to capture with a lot of these cameras nowadays, is that if you are able to see all those pixels that you're taking, that's always going to be better. As far as size and that sort of stuff goes, it would be nice to have a bigger monitor. Not a big deal, but color accuracy is by far. If I'm working on something and I'm spending hours in post coloring, and you'll sit there and you will tweak back and forth for hours. And it's just always disappointing when you send it over somewhere else and it just looks completely different. So color accuracy is huge. What's the secret sauce of portrait photography? Everybody has their own style, right? There's people who are more technical, there's people who are more in the moment, go with the flow type of thing. I like to say I'm kind of a mix of both. I think being super technical with things is always a plus. Obviously, knowing more is always a good thing. It's never a bad thing. Sometimes it can hinder you at moments, because you'll have that kind of fight or that tug of war between technical side of you and just creative side of you. For me, what I think makes a good portrait image though is just something that draws you in, whether it be the emotion of the image, maybe there's movement in the image, maybe it's the colors that bring you in. There's just so many different things. And it's up to, the viewer as far as what they think is good and what's not good. Some of the most memorable images that I've taken earlier when I first started getting into photography, it's like maybe now it's not as technically great as I would have liked it to be, but in that moment, this image meant a lot to me because of X, Y, and Z, right? So there's like an image that I took of my friend Mariah in front of this neon sign where I used my phone as like to reflect the neon sign as well, to kind of like create this like clamshell neon around her. Gosh, it's been 6 years now, which is wild. But that, or like the photo of my girlfriend in the pool, where it's just everything just worked out, that it wasn't even like a planned kind of shoot. Everything just kind of worked out together. And then even something more recent where I've been dabbling into some film stuff. I just love it. Couldn't tell you why, but I just think it's beautiful. Every creative, you have them, it happens. If you haven't had one yet, it will come. So be prepared. How I kind of get over that, it's difficult. It's not easy, and it just kind of depends on what works best for you. What I've found that worked for me though, especially with trying to just find inspiration of just things that will excite you to create again, is, I'm looking everywhere. Like, I will literally go to the mall, I'll go into like Sephora and look at beauty makeup advertisements. And I'm like looking at their eyeballs just to see and like dissect how they did lighting and stuff like that. Older creatives, going back through the history of what you may be into is always something that's great, learning from the people who kind of helped build this whole thing. Just be on the lookout for everything. It's always out there. As a gamer, it is always nice to have a monitor where I can do both, editing and gaming on. The ones that do are just magical because I don't have to worry about swapping over to a different monitor. A lot of times what happens is I have, a gaming monitor where my photo looks way different than another monitor, right? And so for me, it is important to have both. That way it's just an easier way for me to enjoy what I like to do. For people wanting to get into the creative world, the biggest thing is just doing it, but also finding other people that do it as well. That's what kept me going, was surrounding myself with other creatives that motivated me to continue to do what I do. I guess I've always been a creative in some sort of way. I used to play a lot of Call of Duty. I went by Drue. Great gamer tag, by the way. 2008, 2009, got into Call of Duty YouTube world, started recording stuff with the camera that my mom had upstairs. It was this tiny little pink camera. I'd stack up all my school books and set the camera on there and record one game at a time, because that's all that there was time for on the camera. And I started making YouTube videos. And that's honestly what eventually kind of got me into what I'm doing now. Is I don't think if I did Call of Duty YouTube back in 2008, I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing right now. Funny how things work out that way. Why SoaR? Because since I was doing Call of Duty YouTube from probably like 2008 till 2013, I knew a lot of the SoaR guys, little teams of friends that wanted to make YouTube videos. When I was able to get reconnected with SoaR through my photography, I thought it was a really cool way for me to get reconnected with an old passion of mine. Thank you, BenQ.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks for watching. Hi, Mom.